In the small town of Fairwood, where life moved at a slower pace and everyone seemingly knew everyone else's business, Malik Washington was a quiet anomaly, a black man in his late 20s. He was a gifted auto mechanic, his hands capable of coaxing life back into the most stubborn engines. He found a certain peace in the logic of machines, a stark contrast to the often illogical way some of Fairwood's residents treated him. Malik wished they'd see his skill, his steady character, not just the color of his skin that made him an outsider in a predominantly white town. He wasn't one for confrontation, but a simmering dislike for injustice burned quietly within him. His modest dream was to earn enough respect, maybe one day open his own small garage and live a peaceful life. For now, he worked diligently at Miller's Auto, on the edge of town, near a row of old, disused warehouses. The world of Fairwood was one of neatly kept lawns and a main street that prided itself on community. But beneath the surface, currents of unspoken prejudice ran deep. Reputations and, unfortunately, biases tended to stick. One hot, dry afternoon, that fragile peace was shattered. A plume of greasy black smoke billowed into the azure sky, followed by the hungry roar of flames. The old Henderson warehouse, a tinderbox of forgotten lumber and dry rot, was ablaze. Sirens wailed in the distance, but their progress was agonizingly slow. A crowd gathered, drawn by a morbid fascination and a rapidly growing fear. The warehouse was perilously close to a street of modest homes. Among them stood Tom Miller, the gruff, middle-aged owner of Fairwood Hardware, a man whose dismissive glances and curt service Malik had experienced more than once. Tom's face was tight with worry. His own store wasn't far. "It's a lost cause," he declared to anyone listening, his voice strained. "No one in their right mind would go near that inferno. Everything's going to burn if those fire trucks don't get here soon." His gaze swept across the crowd, lingering for a moment on Malik, who stood slightly apart, his expression unreadable as he watched the fire's terrifying dance. Then a sound, almost imperceptible beneath the crackling and roaring of the blaze, pierced through the chaos, a faint, high-pitched cry. Malik's head snapped up. His eyes, usually downcast or focused on an engine block, now scanned the burning structure with an intense, sudden focus. He heard it again, weaker this time. A child, a split-second decision, a spark of something fierce and undeniable ignited within him. Malik Washington, the quiet mechanic, moved. He broke from the edge of the crowd, sprinting towards the inferno with a speed that stunned the onlookers. "Hey, stop, kid. Are you crazy?" someone yelled. "You'll get yourself killed," another shrieked. Tom Miller watched, his mouth agape, a confusing mix of disbelief and an unfamiliar, uncomfortable flicker of something else, respect, dawning in his eyes. The main door of the warehouse was a wall of flames. Malik veered toward the smaller side entrance, a heavy loading door, but it was jammed, debris scattered before it. Flames licked at the wooden frame, smoke pouring from every gap. The child's cries were now desperate, punctuated by terrified coughs. Ignoring the searing heat that blasted his face, Malik's mechanic instincts kicked in. He spotted a discarded length of heavy metal pipe nearby. He grabbed it, wedging it into the doorframe, using his strength and knowledge of leverage. The metal groaned. Sweat poured down his face, stinging his eyes. The air was thick with acrid smoke, each breath a struggle. The crowd watched, a collective gasp caught in their throats. Just then a woman, Sarah Jenkins, broke through the onlookers, her face a mask of terror. "Leo, my Leo. He was playing. He wandered off. Oh, God, my baby." Her frantic cries spurred Malik on. The pipe bit deeper. With a final, desperate heave, the lock snapped. The door shuddered open a few feet, releasing a fresh billow of superheated, black smoke. Without a moment's hesitation, Malik plunged into the choking darkness. The crowd gasped as he was swallowed by the inferno. Sarah screamed her son's name, a raw, animalistic sound of pure anguish. Time seemed to stretch, each second an eternity of unbearable suspense. The roar of the fire was deafening, and the old warehouse groaned under the assault, timbers cracking like gunshots. It felt like an eternity. Hope dwindled with every passing moment. Then, Just as a section of the roof near the entrance began to sag ominously, a figure stumbled out of the smoke-filled doorway. It was Malik. His clothes were smoldering, his face and arms blackened with soot. He was coughing violently, gasping for air, but cradled protectively in his arms was a small, whimpering child. Little Leo, terrified and smoke-stained, but alive. Malik took a few more staggering steps, nearly collapsing from exhaustion and smoke inhalation, but he pushed on until he reached the paramedics, who, along with the belated fire trucks, had finally arrived. He gently, almost reverently, handed the child over. A wave of cheers, applause, and sobbing relief swept through the crowd. Sarah rushed to Leo, enveloping him in a tearful embrace before turning to Malik, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you. Oh, God, thank you. You saved my son. You saved him." Firefighters, now doused in the blaze, worked with grim efficiency. Slowly, Tom Miller walked over to where Malik was sitting on the bumper of an ambulance, an oxygen mask strapped to his face. The hardware store owner, usually so sure of himself, looked humbled, his eyes filled with an undeniable mixture of awe, shame, and profound respect. "Malik," Tom began, his voice hoarse, unfamiliar. I was wrong about you. Dead wrong." He swallowed hard. "What you did back there, you're a hero. A real hero." Malik lowered the oxygen mask for a moment, his breathing still ragged. A faint, weary smile touched his lips. "Just had to do what was right, Mr. Miller." He coughed, then added softly, "Anyone would try." But his eyes, clear despite the soot, held a truth that suggested he knew not everyone would have dared. The fire in Fairwood was eventually extinguished, leaving behind a smoldering ruin. But something else had been kindled that day. The darkness of prejudice that had often clouded Malik's existence in Fairwood hadn't vanished overnight. Not for everyone. But Malik's selfless, courageous act became a defining moment for the town, a story that would be told and retold, a beacon of undeniable heroism. Tom Miller, for one, was a changed man. He now greeted Malik with genuine warmth, offered him discounts at the hardware store, even asked his advice on a sputtering lawnmower engine, small gestures that signified a monumental shift. Malik Washington continued his work at the auto shop, perhaps a little less invisible now, a little more a recognized part of the community he had risked everything to protect. And little Leo Jenkins, whenever he saw the quiet mechanic who had pulled him from the fire, would break into the biggest, brightest wave a 5-year-old could muster. In Fairwood, the light of one man's selflessness had indeed begun to push back the shadows. Malik's incredible bravery not only saved a precious life, but also began to change the heart of a town. What does it truly take to challenge our own prejudices and see the humanity in others? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below, and please subscribe for more stories of everyday heroism that inspire us all.